Okay, awesome. Okay, guys. 3 years from today ago, I started my own startup with a friend together. It was actually I was still in university, and I did my first internship here in Berlin. And yeah, we met through a friend, and we had an awesome idea, we thought, and then we said, okay, let's give it a try. Why not? And then everything started off. And at the beginning, we were actually like, okay, so we have an idea. What shall we do? Okay, now it was an app for sure. We need a developer. So we started searching for a developer, and it was it was without a direction. We didn't know what kind of technologies we needed, what he should actually have for like his personality and so on and so on. So we just hit our search vacancies into the blue, into Facebook, and search everywhere. Then we met up with a few developers. Was, I don't know, 5 to 10 people. I don't know it exactly. And then we said, okay, because of due to our low budget or small budget, we we choose a guy from Italy and started working with him. And yeah, everything was fine at the beginning, but after half a year, when we wanted to incorporate, he made issues because actually he earned his money as a freelancer, but he thought that when he's founding a company together with us, that it's not, or it will limit him, or it will limit his work as a freelancer. So at the end, we convinced him to found the company with us, which was a huge mistake because yeah, 3 months later he wanted to leave the company again, and yeah, it was in Germany. It's not so easy with the company because there's a lot of bureaucracy with it, and then yeah, we had to separate again, as we did, and then we thought, okay, what do we do now? So our idea was actually at the beginning quite good, but it turned out to be very costly. And we in Germany, the venture capital scene is very small, and it was not possible to get the money we needed. And therefore, we said, okay, let's pivot the whole stuff and go into a complete other direction. And then we did, and then we thought, okay, let's go into it with more sense, because what we learned in this time, or especially in this time, uh, build a team of great people which you really know and trust. Because if you have already at the beginning a little seed of doubt, it in the end it will turn true probably. And it is the same for negotiations. At the beginning, we were doing we planned to do an app with bars, and we scored Heineken as a partner, and were really motivated about everything and so on, but just for the 2 or 3 meetings. And afterwards, when we wanted to sign the contracts and everything, we accidentally didn't heard anything. We approached them via telephone, via mail, everything, and we didn't heard anything back. And that was quite weird, actually, because we set up all the contracts with put a lot of money in it, because we wanted lawyers to read over it and every stuff, and then they didn't reply. And it was kind of weird, actually. And that's the next point. When you negotiate with people, especially with big companies, try already at the first meeting to get something fixed, like a term sheet or something like a letter of interest, or something where you have something in your hands that shows you really, okay, they don't sign it without really being interested or really trying, really doing it. But then, yeah, we continued, and then we found a great developer from Israel, and then we continued, and everything worked out fine so far. And then again, we started to hire people, and we started, or at least I, because I was at a knowledgeable university in Germany, so I was kind of the thinking, okay, people who are coming from great universities has to be like I am. They are thankful. They are stepping behind the stuff, and yeah, they are productive. They really want to do something. They are motivated and so on. So we hired 2 people from Oxford and Cambridge, or after another. So first we hired a girl from Oxford, which turned out to be false because she was just 1 month with us, which is really short for German cases. And then again from Cambridge, a guy who turned out to have some psychological issues, and we had to cope with that. And it's always, I just can say, if you're starting a company, really the most thing that matters are the people, because the people, you're meeting them every day. You're sitting, I don't know, 18 to or 15 to 18 hours with them in a room, or working with them even on weekends. And if they are not 100% matching to you, your partner, and your partner's culture, mindset, motivation, and so on, and then you should really overthink that and really leave or abandon the project early enough if the people aren't right, because it really has to match out. And even investors are looking a lot of how is the team chemistry, how is the team harmony, is it working, everything, and they feel when there is a sting in there and something isn't quite working. And what else? Don't found a company in Germany. Here's no money. A lot of great people, yeah, but people don't want to take a lot of risk. There's a small scene or a small space of people who are really into it and want to do something, but the majority even won't support you if you're founding a company. And that's unfortunately a bad habit in Germany, to be so pessimistic. And yeah, if you have any questions or so on about ideas or so on, I can show you some stuff and so on.
What did your startup do?
Sorry?
What was your startup? Did you?
How old?
What was it? What you just?
What was it? Okay. So the most recent was that we started an app, like probably in the US, you know, Grouper, but more kind of a mixture of Grouper and Tinder. You know, Grouper is actually group dating. So meaning, for example, 3 guys meet 3 girls, because yeah, girls do everything together. They go to the bathroom together, so they want to have their best friend with them, especially when meeting guys over the internet, because all men in the internet are rapists. And so we thought, okay, it might be a nice idea to combine the flexibility and ease of Tinder together with the security and comfortableness of kind of group dating. And then it was actually you swiped over groups like Tinder, and if you have a match, we would have set up a meeting in a bar, which was a contractor of us, and you get a first round of drinks for free, and yeah, have a great evening.
That's awesome. Is that app happening now, Ben, or did it?
We recently took it out of the App Store because we ran out of money, unfortunately. And when we met with people from America or from the UK, also everybody was amazed about it. But in Germany, it was like, it's a user growth model. We didn't have a revenue model from the start on. And it was always like, oh, how should you earn money? And it's just burning cash and everything. And I talked with a lot of people who are very successful in Germany, especially in the startup scene. And they told me they liked the idea, but it was not fundable for them in Germany. And for us, especially my 2 co-founders, they didn't want to move to the US or the UK to give it another shot. And then we said, okay, then we're closing it now instead of putting more money in, and taking it as an experience, and everybody orients itself how it continues. As I want to go to Hack Reactor and be able to program it next time myself, maybe, and going on.
That's awesome. Super interesting. Any last questions for Ben before we jump into our day?
Yeah, I actually have two questions. First off, I feel like here, and especially like out in San Francisco, there's this model of businesses that don't start out with a revenue, that are just kind of a growth model and kind of sit on top of investment for a really long time. Are there examples like that in Germany or in Berlin, or do all the startups kind of have to have a revenue model starting out if there's not much venture capital around?
Actually, I just know one company that's really started with a growth model, and that's SoundCloud. SoundCloud didn't really have a revenue model till today, I think, but most of the company, really the huge majority, I would say over 98% really have a revenue model directly at the beginning, because in Germany is very conservative. They want to calculate, okay, they plan to make, 1,000 customers in the first year. They're making from every customer, they make, $100. And so they calculate, and they can calculate the break even. And it's more secure, because when you say, okay, I have to sell a product, and I know that from every customer, or on every customer, I earn on average, $50 or $100. If I sell less, I know I have to invest into selling, and if I sell more, it's easy. But a user growth model is very risky, because you actually don't know, are the users growing organically, or do you have to just put in a lot of money to buy the users, and then the rocket doesn't start, and then you just burn the money. And that's always the point. Yeah? So you have just burning cash, and just at the end of the line, did it work or didn't it? So because in the end, is it organically growing, or is it stagnating? And if it's stagnating, it failed, because the product is not really wanted by the users. It's more, because they saw advertising or something and they just tried it out, and it's not, I tell it to my friends. And that's the point.
Cool, thank you. And then my other question is kind of more on the technical side. Did y'all ever run into any issues with scaling the app up, or just like unexpected technical issues that you had that was kind of a scramble to solve during it?
So if you're interested in it, we started our backend run on Node.js. Mm-hmm. We worked with the Amazon Web Services. We programmed it natively for iOS. So actually it was Objective-C till then. I don't know, Swift came out at this time rather, so it was rather new. And when we start, Node.js is so it doesn't need so many resources, so we were able to use it was one in Heroku, it's called Dino. I don't know how it's called in Amazon. It's just one server. It was $50 per month or something around that, and we were able to host about 15,000 people with that. So that was rather good. But I have to admit, our programmer, which we had, was very, very experienced. He worked for the Mossad before and so on. So he was really deep into it, and he exactly knew what he was doing. So that was really, really great. Even he said when he showed his work to friendly developers, they said, okay, this is the work of a 15 head count or a 15 head developing team. And he said, no, I did this on my own. So he was also very proud of it, and he did a lot of effort into it. So it was very, very good what we had, but in the end, unfortunately, the product didn't work. But he's thinking about refactoring it maybe one day, or using the technology he did for other projects.
Super cool, Ben. Thanks. That was a great presentation. I appreciate that story. I have a lot more questions, but I feel like we have other stuff that we should get to today, unfortunately. Moving on. But yeah, cool. All right, so today we're going to give you the whole rest of this time to work on the projects that you guys started yesterday. Some groups talked to me over Slack about working together. That's fine. Whatever style is going to work for you. You guys can work together in a group. Maybe like you guys want to pair off, just do something 2x2 for a little bit. That's fine. If anybody wasn't here yesterday and didn't get to be part of a group, stay on the Zoom. We'll find a group for you. The other thing that I'm gonna offer is, so like in 2 minutes when I'm done with this kind of spiel and you're ready to like jump back into your groups and start right back where you left off yesterday, totally jump off the Zoom. I'm gonna stay on the Zoom, and if anybody, if you guys want to see a couple just demo problems, I'll go through one of them where we're like invoking an underscore function, and then we'll kind of walk through again how we would go about rewriting one. So up to you if you want to stay on the Zoom or if you want to drop off at this point. If you are like chomping at the bit and you're, oh, that's water, huh? Looks like a liquor bottle. Sorry for the distraction. So jump off, go ahead, get in your groups, start up a Zoom or start up a Google Hangout, open up your Fluebits, get into it. But if you're sticking around, I'm gonna open up a screen share and we're gonna kind of talk through a couple of these together. All right, so let me share my screen. Any questions actually before we part ways? Or some of us part ways, possibly. Okay, shout them out or put them in the chat if something comes up. Okay, that's not what we want. We'll start with this one. Do some little shuffling. Screen around. Okay. So let me get someone to unmute or type in the chat. Which one of these should we try to invoke here? Anybody have a interest in doing one or the other?
Let's do reduce.
Reduce. Okay. Let's invoke reduce. So first of all, let me grab this products array. I think I put it right here. Yeah, I did. Okay, so I have this products array. Obviously, one second here. JavaScript. So my goal, our goal for this reduce is to pass a shopping cart or an array of objects to reduce and use reduce to add up the total price of the order. Well, let's just pretend our shopping list is everything in products. So here we have an array of all of these objects that our user has picked out and they've decided that they're going to purchase. We can see they all have this price property. So we know we're gonna use reduce to tally up all of these prices and return them their total. So let's go to underscore. Let me close my console. Boy, Zoom makes it really hard to navigate your computer. All right, let's find reduce. Wish these were alphabetical. Crazy to me that they're not. Okay, so reduce has a couple of aliases, inject and fold. Reduce boils down a list of values into a single value. Memo is the initial state of the reduction. Each successive step of it should be returned by iteratee. Let me see what MDN says about reduce. The iteratee is passed 4 arguments, the memo, value, index, and finally a reference to the entire list. Let's see what MDN says about reduce. I think they may have some better language. Awesome, this looks a lot better to me. The reduce method applies a function against an accumulator and each value of the array from left to right to reduce it to a single value. Here's how we're gonna use it. Array.reduce, passing it a function optionally, square brackets mean optionally, passing it an initial value, right? So if I was gonna say, hey, I'm gonna get the tally of everything that you bought, but additionally there's like this surcharge I'm gonna charge you of like $50. That would be this initial value. It'd be like whatever the array contains plus something else that I actually want my sum to start with in this case. Okay, we can see the callback is gonna take a previous value, the value previously returned, a current value, and a current index. And remember, these are not all needed. These are just what they can take, right? Array, current index, current value. All we're really gonna care about is current value. So let's get down to business here. Let's use the native method because I don't have it set up quite yet to handle underscore. So products.reduce. Now I need this callback function. So I'm just gonna stub it out, callback function. I'm gonna go back and look at the parameters that I need to give this callback function. Previous value, current index, and array. Put those in there. What do they call them? Previous value, current value. What were the other two? Anybody got them for me? Can unmute and tell me. What is it? Index?
Index and array.
Array. Cool. Thanks. So now I have my function set up to take all of these values. Now, what do I want to do? I'm inside the body of my function. I have this, and by the way, here is where I would optionally pass in my start value. So if I said, hey, I'm going to charge everybody this surcharge of like $50, that's where I would put this as an optional start value. We'll leave that in there for now. Whatever, we'll take it out. We don't need it. We're not going to use the start value. So now my function just has a return statement. I'm going to return, let's see. These are a little anonymous because it's harder to, like if I was naming these, I wouldn't call this current value, right? I would call it like the current product because that's kind of what I really have in my hand, but I'm just going to call it current value. And the specific part of current val that I care about is the price, right? So this current value price is going to be targeting this. But what do I really want to return? I don't want to return just the current value of the item that I have in my hand. I want to return the previous value plus the value of the current item. So what's happening inside reduce here is that the first time we drop in, let me see, I'm gonna pass in this for this first iteration here. This is start value is what previous value initially becomes equal to. So when I first run reduce, I have this previous value that's equal already to 50 because I said, hey, that's what I want you to start with. Then it's going to take current value. Reduce is going to jump into our products array, take these one at a time, find this current value, which is going to say like, hey, the current value is this entire object. I'm going to narrow that down to say, actually, all I want to know is the price. I want to know the specifically the value of this key price. So I add the current status of my previous value, which is going to be 50 the first time, to the current price of the object I have in my hand, 25. This is going to return 75. What happens next inside reduce is that it goes and gets the next value, which is twilight. Now previous value is equal to my last sum, which is 75. So now I'm adding 75 plus whatever the value is of twilight's price, right? Because twilight is now my current val. I'm iterating through this products array. I get all these one at a time. So now I have this twilight object. I want to know its price, which is $9.99. I'm going to add that to previous value. So now I'm up to $84.99. So I'm returning that. $84.99 now becomes previous value. I get the next thing, Dark Side of the Moon, that's $100. I'm up to $184.99. It reduce iterates again. Previous value is equal to this. I get Thriller, which price is going to be 19, and on until I get to the end, 110. I've come up with whatever my sum is at that point, and it will, oops, I can't hit save here. And it'll return to us this final sum. What I like to think of reduce as doing, first of all, I'm going to delete index and array because we're not using those two values, right? To us, we're not dealing with, I don't really care that this is at index 4 at this point. There's a way that I would use reduce where I really wanted to write my logic inside this anonymous function based on the index of an element. But far more common to just to use, right, the value. Like I want to know specifically something about the object. So what I like to think of reduce as doing as in turn holding two separate things in its hands. Previous value, which is accumulating all of the information, and the current item. So then you have this accumulator, this previous value, and you have the current value in your hand, and you have to decide, like, how do I want to combine these, right? We are summing them up. We're just adding them together. But it would be possible to do any kind of operation in here, any kind of operation inside this function. It doesn't even have to, definitely does not need to be a mathematical operation, right? I could be, well, that's like a little more complicated use of it, but it's not always just for returning a specific number, but that is a good way to start with it, because it's easy to think, like, I have these two things, I have A and B, like, how do I want them to be related? Whatever I return from here, whatever this return statement returns, becomes the new previous value. You'll often see reduce written with this being called accumulator, which I think is like kind of a better word for it, because that's actually what it's doing. It's accumulating information. Reduce has this other ability passed into it where, like, if we don't give it a start value, then when it jumps into your products, it just assigns this to be the current accumulator. Or it assigns the first thing it comes across to be the current value, the accumulator.
How would your reduce function work in a case like this where you're trying to access a particular property of an object? Would you have to say, like, accumulator.price or something like that?
Let's find out. I think so, actually. Oh my gosh, I keep hitting save and it keeps doing this for me. Here we go. Oh, it's because I haven't saved yet, and I will need to. Let's just go to desktop. Oops, I didn't console.log it. Let's try this. It's actually a good question. I feel like wondering how to target that in an object without passing in the first accumulator. So let's think about it. If we don't pass in an accumulator, it's going to assign this entire first thing to be the accumulator. So let's see.
Yeah, so it's assigning like an object plus a value.
Right. Let's try this. I feel like we're going to have to set it up to specifically tell it. Like, accumulator is undefined, right? Which it would be this first time. Maybe. I don't know if this will work. Zan or anybody jump in. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think if you test that the accumulator is an object, then you can reassign you can say accumulator equals accumulator.price, and then you can return after you do that assignment, you can return accumulator plus curval.price.
There you go.
But instead of checking, or did that work? Well, you have the initial value. Instead of checking if it's undefined, if the type of is an object.
Oh, right.
And there's some questions in the chat about needing to use plus equals instead of just plus. But is that because you don't need plus equals because our reduce function is essentially like taking care of that for us?
Yeah, behind the scenes, at every iteration, reduce is saying that accumulator is equal to the return. So this function that we're providing, this callback function, it's going to set accumulator equal to the return value from this function. And what we return is going to be the new value of accumulator.
Any others?
Does that work by flagging it if our accumulator is an object?
It did, but I think it gave us a different number. Type of accumulator is equal to an object. Accumulator equals accumulator plus accumulator.price.
That number is 50 less than the last number we had, and I think it's just because we took away our 50 start value, right?
Oh, right. Quick on the math there. Yep. There you go. So, right, if you're not going to pass in a specific accumulator, one other way to do this, right, would be, since we know we're dealing with positive numbers here, is we'd pass in a 0. Starting with a 0 for an accumulator. Dealing with like the accumulator being optional is something like you can we'll be able to explore further as you like rewrite reduce. But yeah, there you go. This would be another way to handle it. If you check if it's an object and then tell it specifically that you want which value off of the object that you want. Let's see here. What else we can go over? So we went over reduce. We can do another one of these together, or we can also go over writing one.
I think we have an ask for your unique.
Unique.
That's actually what I was going to ask. Yeah, unique and how it can access the arrays in products.
Use unique to ensure that there are no duplicate selling points on any products before displaying them. So unique is going to ask us to check this specifically, selling points array. So I can see like a couple ways that we would do this. I'm just going to comment this out. I can paste this. I probably won't paste this whole products array, but I can paste this in the Slack later if you guys want to have a look at it. So let's try this one, var unique array. So unique takes a few different parameters, but let's check it out. It's not gonna be an MDN. What it would take most simply would just be like a simple array, right? I think the examples they give you are actually just numbers, where the array is like 2, 2, 2, 5. And then obviously this is gonna return, let's see, let's just set up these console log statements. Oh yeah, I can't use underscore. I wonder if this will work if I'm running this in Node to just require it. I think I have this installed globally, so we'll see if this works. Not like that though. Let's see if it finds it globally. No. All right, I'm just gonna have to do this on their page then. Or we'll just walk through it. Okay, so we can imagine this would just return us a unique array that would just be 2 and 5. But we want to use it in a little bit more complicated way, so we could pass it. We could also just single out this array, right? You could imagine setting up a for loop for this and then picking out the selling points array. So it would be something to the effect of, simply we could say, hey, let's do this. Let's try it on this one, products 0 dot selling points. Then if we console log unique array, this would go into products 0, find the selling points array, and do what we would expect it to, right? Find unique sentences. Everybody with us to this point? Any questions right now?
Well, we're not expecting any of those arrays to have duplicate sentences, right?
I thought they would have. Yeah, this one does. Like Twilight, doesn't make you think too hard and doesn't make you think too hard.
Okay, then never mind.
So, I think I actually see something there. So Ben says duplicate check function takes the array results, array.length, results.push, unique array, selling points. So Ben, what would that function give us?
That function would actually loop over all objects in our array and give us back a like cleaned selling points key, or an array actually where all the selling points are in their own arrays, but duplicates are erased.
Right, so that would kind of like pull these arrays out of their home objects and then kind of collect them into a results array. So our results array would have however many objects there are here, 5, 3, 4, 5, 6. Would have 6 arrays in it, 6 elements, each of which would be an array with no duplicate selling points. But if we want to keep these selling points in place, what we could basically set up is something where we are, like Ben said here, we're going to have to like iterate through function object key selling point. Products, second is a function, takes object key, selling point, turn. Let's try this one here. This I'm pulling out of chat. I don't have unique, which is going to be a bummer. I'm going to have to go to my underscore page. So actually, let's put this one on hold because this is one using like an iterator function in there as another parameter. I think it also might need a second parameter that says whether it's sorted or not, because I think it's expecting the third argument to be that function. But without getting into even passing it another function, we could set up a loop that keeps things in place. If we said for products.length, in fact, instead of coding this out, our goal here is going to be to iterate through products array inside of this for loop for every product object we are going to call unique on its selling points array and reassign the result as selling points. So does that pseudocode make sense that we would use this for loop to go through our entire products, and then in turn, we're going to take each object, call unique on its selling points array, and then just say, hey, selling points now equals the result of calling unique on what formerly was selling points. Any questions on what we would be doing here? So here we have each product in turn. We would say product dot selling point, oops, equals the result of calling unique on its current value of its selling point array. So it's going to take in its array, it's going to run unique on it, and then reassign it. So take away whatever had duplicates and reassign it to its new value. I want to give you guys time to work on this in groups as well. Zan and I are more than happy to jump in and give you guys like examples as well, but I want to make a little time to just go over how we like dissect it to rewrite it as well. But any other questions here?
Would an for each loop make sense for using unique, for example, as the callback function, and then looping over the array, like addressing selling points?
Sure. For each is basically like kind of a new version of a for loop. So if we just said for each, this would basically take a function. This function is going to get each element in turn. In this case, we know that the element, actually, I'm just going to call it product so I can keep all this in there. It's going to get each one in turn. Don't need to do this anymore. This is going to be the same thing, getting rid of a for loop and using for each. For each just basically builds that for loop for us and takes care of handing our new function one product at a time to deal with. All right, let's What do you guys want to spend if we have, want to get you guys out of here by like 9:45. That's just like 5 more minutes. But is there something else that we should go over in 5 more minutes? Is going over how to rewrite one of these the most useful thing, or what's our best use of 5 minutes? Are you guys ready to just go into groups? Rewrite one, please. Okay, let's find a rewrite one. I think I still have. I gotta find that doc that had the thing in it. I think Slack is gonna be my best bet. Shout any questions out. Zan can probably help you answer them. You guys can while I dig around and try to find this. I apologize for the delay. Should have pulled this up sooner. Here we go. So we rewrote index of last time. How about we do for each, but we'll just do the array part and I'll leave the object part for you guys. Sound good? Thumbs there. Okay. Pull up Sublime. Get a new one. Oh, I'm not screen sharing. Hold on a second. Thank you guys. Wow. Screen share. Okay. So we have for each set up. Let's take a tour through MDN's for each here. Okay, the for each method executes a provided function once per array element. So it's going to be array for each, and it's going to have a callback, optionally this parameter, which we're not going to deal with right now. We know the callback's going to have to take these 3 arguments, and for each is different than all these other functions in that it doesn't have a return value, just has side effects. There's more to it here. You guys can read through a bunch of examples, right? Here's how they invoke it. But we are concerned with rewriting it. So how are we going to set this up so that we have this ability that someone can invoke our version of for each with an array and a function and get the same result that they would get if they use the prototype for each? So we know it's going to be a function. We want our user of this function to be able to just simply pass it the same thing that MDN would have asked in the native version, or underscore an array to operate on, and a callback function, right? So when our user says, "Hey, I'm going to use this thing," that's what they will input. So I have this array. How can I set it up so that I like start exposing our array to be able to show what its elements are and let this callback take action on each element? Who can unmute and like walk me through some of this?
Yeah, okay, I would say that we start with a for loop that loops over the array.
Okay, so let's start with that.
And then we simply invoke, also meaning callback, then parentheses, and then we're invoking it with our array in brackets I, so our certain element we have, so that we use it for every element.
Great. So we have this set up now for each, this function that we've just written. We've defined this function for each. We've said that, hey, it's going to take 2 parameters, an array and a callback. And whenever it's invoked, what's going to happen is that our array is going to be iterated through by a for loop. Each element in turn is going to be passed in to this callback, right? These are the invocation parentheses to callback. This is becoming the argument to callback. This is the full solution for each, for arrays. This is the whole thing. We have iterate through our array and invoke the callback on each element in turn. Without getting into the logistics, I'll let you guys explore how to decide whether you're dealing with an object or an array. What would be different? Someone other than Ben, unmute and tell me, like, if I knew that I was getting an object here, How would I write this?
You would do a for in loop.
Right, for var key in object. And then Nelson, what do I need to write here?
It would also be the callback function invoking that in array array key. I forgot exactly how to write that. Array bracket key.
Right, I secretly changed it to object, but you're right, bracket. So there's actually something that we're missing here, right? We said that the callback function that they pass in is going to actually get more than just one argument. Here, we're just giving it one single argument. How would I give it the rest of the parameters that it says it should get? It says it should get the current value, the index, and the array.
Sorry, my internet cut out.
What's that? I missed that, sorry.
My internet cut out.
Oh, okay. I was saying, what else, and anyone can answer too, like what else do I need to pass into these invocation parentheses so that my callback has the option of operating on not just the value of the current index of the array, but also the index itself and the array as a whole?
Should I say it?
If no one else can pipe up, Ben will take your answer, but I'd like somebody else here. I can't see everyone's pictures, otherwise I would call on someone, but anyone else here who hasn't spoken up yet, can tell me. Moar, I haven't heard from you yet. What can I pass in here so that the callback has the option to operate on more than just the value?
The index itself.
Right, and how would that be represented in this situation? We can ignore this part for now.
I.
Right, and the last parameter is the array itself, so how do I pass that in?
Just AR.
Right, exactly. So now, let me write this in my for each. Oops, not capital. So now I can invoke this just exactly like I would have the other. I pass it an array, pass it 2, 3, 5, pass it a function that's going to get 3 values. We'll say value, index, and array. What do I want it to do? Let's just have it console.log val space. We'll stick it. So now that I'm invoking it,
You have an object in the function over there at the top. You change it to an object instead of array.
oh, thanks. So my for each is doing, it's passing each value in turn into this function and showing us what happens here. So first of all, I get a 2, which lives at index 0, which is part of the array 2, 3, 5. Then I get the value 3, which lives at index 1. That's also part of the same array. Finally, I get value 5, which lives at index 2, which is part of this array. The most important thing to keep in mind dealing with higher order functions is this callback function, knowing what parameters it needs to be able to take, which we can tell because here we see when it's invoked, it gets these 3 parameters. So when I invoke my for each and actually pass it an actual function, I should know that, hey, I have these parameters at my disposal. Like I can pass it all of these, I can use all of these parameters if I want inside my function. I could just use one if I want. Maybe I really only care about value. And then I'm just going to get that. Maybe I really only care about index. All right, I'm a little over the time I want to spend, you guys. I will put all this code that we just did together in Slack. Any last questions before you guys group back up? And also, if you are still working on this part here where you're invoking it, don't worry so much about the DOM. In fact, I would just suggest that you kind of just go console log the results and see if you're getting what you expect, as opposed to like displaying a message on the screen or like sending an alert to the screen. And just focus on getting a result back that you can see and see if it's working the way you want. All right. Is there anyone here who needs a pair, who wasn't here yesterday and needs a partner? Okay, well, hit me up in Slack if you need John. Oh, John is Gabriel. Okay. I was like, wait a minute. We don't have a John in this class. John, it's Gabe. Just got a new laptop. Awesome. Kevin, do you have a pair set up?
Yeah, I connected with my group from yesterday.
Okay.
So.
Awesome. Gabe, I'll add you into a group on the whiteboard. All right, guys. I'm gonna end the meeting. Join up in your groups. Start off where you left off, and Zan and I will drop in your groups. But don't hesitate to have us come in and just do some more examples if you guys are feeling like you're not sure how something is supposed to be working. But mostly just play with it, and as you invoke them, see what happens. See what you need to change to get what you want out of it. A lot of it is just kind of like look under the hood, poke around, try to break something, try to fix it. Okay, we will see you guys shortly.